All right, let's just get right into it. If you're tuning into this explainer, there's a pretty high chance you're running a storefront in San Francisco. And honestly, an even better chance you've had a really rough time lately. Maybe you're staring at a shattered glass door right now, a busted frame, or you're just totally burnt out from the daily grind of trying to keep your space secure. Well, today, we're going to walk through a very grounded, real-world guide to hardening your San Francisco storefront. And the best part? We're going to figure out exactly how to lock down your store without sacrificing a single ounce of that gorgeous brand aesthetic you worked so hard to build. But hey, before we even think about hardware, I need you to hear this crucial piece of advice straight from our source material. Do not make decisions in the first 48 hours. Get your store stabilized, sleep. This comes from years of literal boots-on-the-ground experience with San Francisco retailers. If you just went through an incident, your adrenaline is probably through the roof, right? Your gut instinct is totally going to be to buy the biggest, baddest metal gate you can find, right this second. Seriously, don't. Your feelings are 100% valid, but just take a breath. Get the glass boarded up, go home and get some sleep. Once you wake up, we can tackle this strategically.
Because let's be real, running retail in San Francisco, it is a uniquely stressful beast. Margins are incredibly thin, rent is astronomical, and keeping staff is harder than ever. So every single incident just hits that much heavier because you're already operating right on the edge. The source material actually talks about a distressed grocery client the morning after a break-in. You know what he needed? It wasn't a slick sales pitch. He just needed a human connection. He literally just needed someone to listen to how emotionally exhausting it is to run a shop in the city, way before talking about transaction details. It's all about remembering the human element first.
So where are we pulling all this strategy from? 16. That is our magic number. We aren't tossing out theoretical advice or some generic marketing fluff here. The insights we're unpacking today are anchored in 16 real, documented, high-end installations right in San Francisco over the last 5 years. We're talking designer fashion boutiques, a flagship jewelry store, high-end home goods, heck, even a downtown federal courthouse. We're looking at what actually works in the reality of this specific city.
Section 1, SF threats are different.
To actually secure your store, you have to understand the specific ecosystem you're in. If you look at surrounding areas, like the East Bay, places like Concord or Oakland, security calls usually happen after a clean-cut break-in or a massive smash and grab. But in San Francisco, it is a totally different ballgame. Retailers here are mostly fighting the slow, persistent erosion. Think about it. Graffiti tags that just magically reappear every few weeks, angled alcoves turning into overnight sleeping spots, and attempted entries that might not even succeed but completely destroy your doorframes in the process. It's just a relentless daily grind of vandalism and low-level damage.
Here is a perfect example of this unique San Francisco pattern from the data. There was this beautiful high-end home goods store in the city with an angled doorway alcove. Every single night, folks were using it to sleep in. And the poor owner was walking into a messy, super unsanitary situation literally every morning. The fix? It wasn't building some crazy medieval fortress to stop a heist. They simply installed a shutter to act as an alcove blocker. That's it. At closing time, the shutter rolls down, seals the alcove perfectly flush with the building, and boom, the morning routine completely resets to normal.
And that brings us right to a brilliant core concept, the presence deterrent. The huge takeaway here is that you really don't need Fort Knox to protect your San Francisco store. You don't need a literal vault door. For those slow erosion threats we were just talking about, a presence deterrent does all the heavy lifting. It's really just about sealing off a space effectively to wave off that low-level daily damage. It just needs to be there consistently.
Section 2, protecting the brand aesthetic.
All right, let's address the elephant in the room. If you run a luxury boutique, you are probably terrified that adding security is going to make your gorgeous shop look like an active construction zone. And yeah, the brand-damaging choices are pretty obvious, right? Solid metal shutters and shiny chrome, unfinished aluminum, big clunky housing boxes, an SF that is just a total non-starter. Instead, the recommended standard is actually a bronze perforated finish. Why? Because a perforated shutter physically deters threats, but it's transparent enough that your storefront still feels open and inviting after hours. Toss in black perforated or custom color-matched finishes, and your security suddenly blends right into your luxury visual standards.
Section 3. The case for interior.
Let's dig into what I genuinely consider the best-kept secret of San Francisco storefront security. In most cities, interior-mounted shutters make up, maybe 20% of all installations. But in San Francisco, that rate spikes incredibly high. While an interior install is just a tiny fraction of the work almost everywhere else, in SF, it's actually the dominant, totally necessary go-to solution.
So why the huge difference? Well, San Francisco kind of forces your hand toward interior installs for 3 big reasons. Number 1, historic facades. You simply can't, or legally shouldn't, drill heavy structural mounts right into ornamental plaster, stone, or antique brick. Number 2, lease restrictions. If you're in a mixed-use building with apartments upstairs, landlords almost always say absolutely not to exterior changes. And number 3, 24/7 brand continuity. With an interior mount, your glass, your signage, your beautiful window displays, they stay totally visible from the sidewalk. The shutter just drops right behind the glass, so your brand is working for you all night long, while you neatly sidestep all those annoying landlord and city code headaches.
Oh, and I want to just absolutely shatter a common myth right here. People always assume shutters are strictly a ground floor product. No way, they absolutely are not. Just to prove it, the dataset actually includes an interior shutter install on a 4th floor consignment boutique. And get this, even a single shutter securing a mailroom way up on the 13th floor of a downtown federal courthouse. The rule of thumb here is honestly so simple. Anywhere there is a glass entry that needs to safely lock up at night, an interior shutter is totally on the table.
And this naturally brings up a massive source of panic for a lot of retailers. Can historic buildings even have shutters? If your shop happens to be in a designated historic district, you've probably been hit with a flat no at least once before.
But here's the thing, that no is usually just shorthand for no exterior shutters. Trying to get an exterior permit on a historic facade means battling the planning department, wrestling with crazy strict facade rules, and waiting maybe 4 to 8 weeks just for them to probably reject your mounting hardware anyway. But interior permitting, completely different story. Because it doesn't touch the public-facing historic facade, those district rules often don't even apply. The process is vastly simpler. Sometimes it's literally just an over-the-counter approval. Talk about a massive regulatory stress relief, right?
Section 4. Your next steps.
So now that the immediate chaos of an incident has passed, here is your highly practical 3-step action plan. Step 1. Start with your general contractor. Please don't just Google a direct vendor. Luxury retail thrives on pre-vetted GCs because they already carry the brand's specific aesthetic and compliance needs. Going direct as a brand is usually way slower, and you risk getting a vendor who just doesn't respect your visual standards. Step 2. Stop viewing an interior install as some sort of compromise or downgrade. Recognize it as the smart, streamlined solution for SF. And Step 3. Design only for your block's actual threat. Keep that presence to turn idea in mind. You are trying to solve for slow erosion, alcove sleeping, and graffiti. You're not building a bank vault, so don't buy one.
So as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with one final thought to chew on. Are you just reacting to yesterday's chaos, or are you calmly designing a brand-protecting shield against your block's daily reality? Because you have the data now. You know for a fact you can protect your livelihood without ruining that gorgeous storefront you poured your heart into. So take a deep breath, call your GC, ask about a perforated bronze interior setup, and reclaim your space. You've totally got this. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.